Hey guys, it's Melanie. So today I am doing not necessarily my final update on my micro shading experience, but it is my update after my touch-up appointment and after my brows have healed after that touch-up appointment. If you missed my first video regarding this topic, I will be sure to link it down below in the description box. Maybe go watch that video first and then come back to this one. But in this video, I just kind of wanted to give you guys some final thoughts on how this experience compared with my last experience tattooing my brows. So if you are new to my channel, I did have microblading done last year, and I did it, I think it was right around my birthday, so either like late October, early November, and the microblading just didn't work for me. I have extremely oily skin, and I knew going into it that there was going to be a decent chance that the microblading would not take, and it really didn't. It faded very quickly after having it done. I was very careful with my skincare products. I was very careful with my brows, just in terms of making sure that I wasn't like running my Clarisonic across them. Just very like conscious of the fact that I wanted to do whatever I could to prolong these brow hairs that were put into my brows. I found that despite taking all of the precautions, by the time that the 6-month mark rolled around, I could almost barely tell that I had had microblading done. Another thing that happened is that the hair-like strokes really seemed to spread out even after the very first session. And so I ended up going with what the technician at the time called an ombre brow, which is where she used a different type of micro blading tool that was more of like a stamper, and she actually filled in my brows completely. So I was able to, at the 6-month mark, still see a shadow or an outline, but I had to start filling in my brows pretty significantly by that point. And I'm just going to show you guys, because I always get this question. This is what I was using on my brows. It is the Tarte Amazonian Clay Volumizing Brow Powder in the shade gray. When I don't have purple in my hair is salt and pepper gray. I am naturally that color. And this was really the best brow powder that I've ever found. The shade of this was absolutely perfect for me. I have several backups of it because it is, I believe, being discontinued by Tarte. I will link this down below if you're curious where to find it. I will put the information in the description box. But yeah, so I was having to use this on a full-time basis, essentially, again, starting in like June, July. And over the summer, I started doing some research on actually tattooing my brows. And what I came across was a somewhat newer technique called microshading, which uses a machine to insert the pigment into the skin. I looked around my area, and there were very few places that were doing the micro shading, and a lot of people were doing microblading. Like, that's still, you know, a really popular thing, obviously. And if you don't have very oily skin, that might really be a great bet for you, especially if you are looking to have hair-like strokes. I don't really go for a natural brow look ever. That's not really my thing. I like to have my brows filled in completely. That's just the look that I prefer. So really, the micro shading was going to be the best bet for me anyway. I researched, I was on Instagram, and I actually came across someone that is in my area, and I sent her a message, and I was like, hey, I have done microblading and it just didn't work out for me. I have very oily skin. Do you think that this microshading technique will work better? And we had some communication back and forth, and she said, I absolutely think that you should come in for a consult and let me look at your brows. And, you know, we can kind of discuss from there whether I think it'll be worth your time to do it. What I really appreciated about this particular technician is that she never pushed me into it. You know, she was like, look, I don't think microblading is a good option for oily skin, period. The clients that I do it on tend to come back way more frequently, and they're very frustrated because the hair like strokes just kind of spread out. It's not the most ideal technique for those with very oily skin. So luckily the technician that I had for the microblading did not leave any scars in my brows at all. And she said, I think that with this new pigment that I have, which is supposed to be better for oily skin, you're gonna have much better luck. So I committed, I made an appointment. My very first appointment was the day before my birthday, the day before my 40th birthday. So I went in that Monday, and I was honestly so impressed with the experience compared to my microblading experience. Not that that was bad, but I found the microblading much more aggressive and much more painful than the microshading. And you would think with her using what essentially looks like a tattoo gun on my face that would be more painful, but I actually found that less painful. Now, that being said, it still hurt. I definitely had the lidocaine put on there a couple of times, but it just kind of dulls the pain a little bit. I don't think that my skin reacts the best to lidocaine. I still felt probably more than what some other people feel with that on their skin. And it really affects my sinuses to have the brow area messed with in any kind of way. So I was tearing up like crazy. Yeah, just I had like very minimal eye makeup on that day, and it was just like running down my face. I mean, it looked like I was bawling, but I wasn't. I mean, it hurt, but not enough. I mean, I've given birth to a child. Like, I know what real pain is. And that was uncomfortable. It wasn't even very uncomfortable. It was just uncomfortable, but it made me tear up like crazy for some reason. But it was much less painful, and I found that I just preferred that experience overall over the microblading one, 100%. And when it was all said and done, she sent me home, and the biggest difference was that this technician did not want me to do dry healing, which is what I did the first time around. That means not getting the brows wet at all. That means not washing them. That means not applying any like ointment to the brows. With this experience, she said, no, you need to wash your brows. You need to get that like plasma or whatever it is that oozes out of a fresh tattoo, the blood and, you know, just the juice that comes out. She said, you need to wash that off very gently. You need to keep the area very clean. And she gave me this custom ointment that she actually makes herself. And I was to apply that twice a day. What was amazing is that it actually helped me retain the pigment from the first go around so much better than the microblading. I swear that the dry, flaky brows that I had from microblading, those were actually like uncomfortable and painful because the area was so dry and I was not allowed to put anything on it. And the scabs that I got were huge, like massive chunks of scabs would like come off, and I could actually see like the pigment coming out with the scabs when they would fall off. So I had like huge chunks missing like in sections of my brows. That just didn't happen with this healing method that she had me do of washing my brows and applying the ointment that she gave me. It was just a vastly superior healing experience. And I healed much faster. It took like 2.5 weeks with the microblading. This took a week to heal, and the brows were gorgeous. And when I went in for my touch-up appointment, same thing. super easy. You know, we didn't have to take as much time drawing everything out because obviously we'd already done that, but she did remeasure my brows and there were a couple of areas that definitely needed some touching up. And then we just filled them in completely again, and because I wanted a pretty bold brow. And I loved it. Like, I sat up and I just looked at my brows and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. I feel like they suit my face so much better than the microblading brows. I had her make them just a little bit thicker because my brows, when they heal, they seem to shrink for some reason. So I had her make them just a little bit thicker. But I'm so pleased, you guys. This experience just overall was better all around. One, it was less expensive. So in terms of price, the area where I live in Oregon, I paid $4.50 for the microshading. I also gave her a 20% tip, so that is not included in that $4.50. I do believe in tipping. So I know that this is her own business and her own company, but she just did such a great job. So definitely tip your technician. That was still less expensive than what I paid for the microblading, which didn't last, and I don't think looked as good, and I wasn't as happy with the end result. This I'm so pleased with. What I also appreciate about this particular technician is that she offers touch-up appointments. So with oily skin, she suggests just doing a top off at the 6-month mark, which I think is about $80. And then from there, she said you should be able to easily get away with only coming in once a year, and we'll just kind of go through everything. And she said you should very easily be able to maintain them. And I'm so happy, you guys. I do intend on going in kind of at the beginning of the summer and doing that 6-month top off. And after that, I will go the following summer, start of the following summer. It's much less expensive to do the like even yearly touch-up. So if you go in right at like the 11-12 month mark, there is a significant discount. So I want to say it's like $150 or $200, somewhere around there. It's definitely less than half of doing like the full brow. So it really behooves you to maintain the brows and to go in for a yearly touch-up instead of letting them fade completely. Obviously, if you don't like them, over time they will fade. And you can speed that process along if you want to by putting your retinols or your vitamin C or anything that is meant to address hyperpigmentation into your brows, and that can definitely help to fade them. So on the flip of that, if you want to keep your brows, do not put retinol products around your brow area. I am very careful now about where I apply any vitamin C serums or any retinols or any AHAs or BHAs. Really the only area on my forehead is kind of like this little triangle area here. I just stay away from anything here. Skincare can travel, so keep that in mind. I try to make sure to leave like a really nice buffer, so even if it does travel a little bit, it doesn't go all the way down into the brows. The rest of my face and neck and everything else gets the normal skincare treatment every single night. I don't run my Clarisonic over my brows. And I use SPF every single day. You guys know what my preferred SPF is. It is the Paula's Choice Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense SPF 30. If you've never heard me talk about this product, you must be new to my channel, but this is like my everyday holy grail. So this goes over my brows. One thing I will say is that when I do put the SPF over my brows, it does have a slight tint to it. I don't know if you'll be able to like see that, but there is a tint. So I do still use this brow powder. I very lightly dip my brush in here and just run it over the brows. And that is basically to just counteract the ashiness that the SPF leaves on my brows. But you have to protect your entire face first off, but you have to also protect the brows from UV rays. Those can definitely cause fading of your either microblading or microshading very quickly as well. So make sure that you're using an SPF. You should be doing that anyway. So yeah, just very easy to take care of. And I'm very happy, you guys. I will definitely do an update at the 6-month mark, right before I go in to do the 6-month touch-up, and I will let you guys know sort of where they're at that point. But just from what I'm seeing so far, I know these are gonna last a whole lot better. I just feel like the pigment was put a little bit deeper into the skin. I just don't think it's gonna fade as fast. I mean, just based on the way that my brows looked from the first appointment to the second appointment, it was just a world of difference from my first experience. So I'm very hopeful, obviously, but I do think that this is something that I will definitely keep up with because it's just so easy. I wake up in the morning and I have eyebrows, and I love that look. I love the look of eyebrows. Over plucking them in the early 90s left me with a very thin line of actual brow hair, and my face is very round. I have a larger face, a larger head, and you need eyebrows. I think I look like a crazy person without them. So this just saves me an extra 10 minutes every morning, because that is how long it took me to draw them in, because I wanted them to be even. And I really didn't have much of an outline to work with anymore. So it would take me a long time to make sure that I was drawing them in and that they looked normal and not like two completely different eyebrows. So it's just a huge time saver for me. And for me personally, it is worth that $450 investment plus tip. You know, and going forward, I don't have to spend that much each year. It's just gonna be the, you know, touch-up fee, and that'll be it. And I just maintain that, and that's it. So 2 thumbs up for me. I am super happy, you guys. Again, if you missed my first video, I will link it down below, but let me know if you have any questions. I'll definitely be sure to try to get back to you as soon as possible. Just leave it in the comments section down below. I hope this was helpful for you guys. And thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I'll see you in my next video. Take care. Bye.